to United Rugby Championship. Are we going to get a South African win? We got the 1 out of 4. Ollie, you called it, the Lions to win. We had 2 out of 4. We didn't call it. Zalamnel, SA Rugby magazine. Myself, Mark Kieran, and Oliver Kieran. Will we get a South African win?
I hope so.
Thanks. The end.
Look, I think if you're going to be banking on any South African this weekend, it's probably the Bulls. Slightly more favoured to win. Still not favoured to win, but standing in better stead than they were last week. They're playing Connacht, who lost to, I think it was Cardiff Blues last weekend. I think every team lost cells that's playing this weekend.
Yeah, except for Munster, they beat the Sharks.
Except for Munster, of course. Yeah, so I think if you're going to hedge your bets, probably on the Bulls this weekend. Hopefully gain some steam, gain a little bit of experience from that first game. What are your guys' thoughts?
Zals, we go back to last week. I mean, it wasn't unexpected what we saw.
No. The size of the loss, the margin of defeat for the Bulls surprised me a bit. 31-3. I mean, it actually talked to the sense that the bookies had to, 16, 17, 18 to 1 against the Bulls last week. So they obviously got it right. I was very surprised that the Bulls got blown off the park the way that they did. If you look at the match, there are instances there where you could say, sure, the Bulls should have scored some tries. Their lineup was a problem. And you've got to hope that they're going to start converting those opportunities. You spoke to Jake, I think, briefly after the game and got some insight from him, and it seemed like he's quite buoyant about how the Bulls might respond going forward.
Yeah, I mean, he's been quite vocal. You beat Leinster, you win the championship. As far as he's concerned, they are the team. They're the crusaders of this competition. They won the Old Pro 4 times in succession. Been one of the great teams in Europe consistently. Loaded with internationals. Speaking to me, he said that first 20 minutes, the tempo they played at surprised his team in the sense that he said they had to go out there and experience to actually know what it was. And they settled in nicely at 17-3. There was opportunity to kick a few penalties, to potentially score 1 or 2 tries. I thought in the end it was more a 31-17 game than a 31-3 game.
Yes.
In terms of how the Bulls played in patches.
Yes.
But chatting to him, he said the biggest thing was when you've got a provincial and a young provincial side playing test players, the test players are playing at 5 to 10 seconds quicker than you do. So he said they would make the tackle, they would get up, they would be tackled, they would get up, where our guys are in those first 20 minutes were 10 seconds off the pace of the game, and he said it was telling. He doesn't think it will get tougher than what they played, which is one of the positives. So the pace of the game, and then also interesting the referees. He was very complimentary of the refereeing and said they encourage the attacking team. They encourage teams to play, and the perception may have been amongst South African teams that they were going to get Northern teams that just kick it up and chase. Not at all.
Case.
Yeah, it's they're playing some really attractive rugby, and that first week, if you look at all the games, there were some really cool games.
What do you think? How positive do you think it is that we sort of starting this competition without all of our international players? So these guys are sort of getting blooded in the Northern Hemisphere. A lot of young guys in all of the sides, and they're going to have to play sort of like a couple of weeks now before they've got any of their Springbok influence back in. How positive do you think that is in the long run for our sort of depth and our maturity within those rugby spheres?
So the thing with that, Ollie, is that the only teams that get boxed back really are the Stormers and the Sharks. I mean, the Bulls have pretty much got their full complement of guys, and the Lions don't have box. So I mean, yes, definitely. I think what we're seeing is this is the consequence of our best players playing their rugby abroad. Not necessarily just the Springboks. We've got hundreds of players overseas. And so it is going to be a sharp learning curve for those guys that have been playing. I think also, Mark, you could probably talk to this. When we came out of isolation, there was a period where we thought we were world champions because we were Currie Cup champions, and we got a bit of a rude awakening to start with. And so I think there's a bit of that going on this season where we've had guys playing each other incestuously for 2 seasons now, measuring themselves against youngsters. And now we go and play internationals in Ireland.
Yeah, look, I think maybe we underestimated just how much 20 months would have done. When we came out of isolation in 1992, we've been out of it for a good decade. We kind of believed our own nonsense that, our Currie Cup teams could beat every international team. I didn't think so much damage could be done in 20 months as had been done. And we certainly have fallen behind. And Jacques Nienaber said that with the Springboks, that team hasn't played, they haven't had opportunity to evolve. I do, however, think we'll catch up very quickly.
I agree.
I think within 2 months of this tournament, we will start playing at that tempo, start playing at that pace. And when we come home and we play in January and February in the South African summer against these teams, with a full complement of players, it'll be a different competition.
I think it was Gavin Rich wrote on Supersports after the weekend. It's sort of like alarming, not alarming, but not great results. But it shows that we're playing in the right spaces now. It's like it shows that the United Rugby Championship is where we need to be as South African team. So regardless of what happens results-wise in these first few weeks, it can only be a positive thing going forward for South African rugby.
And speaking about positive things, Jordan Hendrickson looked great for the Lions. I thought that keeps coming on in leaps and bounds. And I think, talking to your point earlier, we are going to see youngsters come through in this competition that may not have had that same opportunity, have been tested the same way if we'd stayed in Super Rugby.
The interesting thing about a team like the Lions, who struggled in South Africa, struggled with the referee interpretations, but their style of play is very suited to that helter-skelter type of rugby that we saw with a couple of teams. I mean, to be 38-0 up as they were, the bizarre thing was that they were handing on at 38-26. So the Bulls also came back well in the context of the game. And then faded in the last 15. And the Stormers, 18-7 up, faded in the last 15. So there's something about our conditioning that has to improve. And I think that also comes with tempo, the pace of the game, and then also understanding referees. And actually understanding what they're going to blow for. So
I think conditioning is a good word to use there, because it's not just a case of fitness. I mean, these guys are fit, they've been playing, but you do get conditioned to a different style of rugby, and they aren't, like you said, they aren't conditioned to the style of rugby at all.
Well, also, when I asked Jake, what's the big difference between Currie Cup referees and these referees that you encountered and what you saw with the other games, and he just felt that there was a resistance in South Africa for the referees to blow certain things. Where there they back themselves, these referees, and they are blowing certain things, and they really are favouring the attacking team. Where in South Africa, he says, playing against each other, they were favouring the defensive team, so you didn't want the ball because it was you felt you would get the penalty by not having the ball, that they would favour you at the breakdown. There they favour the team that's got the ball, and that's the team that's playing rugby. And he says it's also just a mental adaptation. But he seemed very upbeat that they can only get better. I said to him, the good thing about being 16th on the table is the only way is up, and having played the defending champions away from home. In your first game, and it's a 21 round tournament. We keep on saying this. The final is in June next year. So I just thought it was a very sobering weekend, with a little bit of a surprise. I thought, hey, hang on a second, maybe the Stormers will box this one, and shit, the Lions really did surprise me. But the other two, I was disappointed with the way the Sharks faded. Given Munster weren't particularly good. I mean, Leinster looked like they'd been playing all season. Munster struggled for their first 30. They looked like a team playing their first game. And I expected a bit more of the Sharks, a little bit more maybe mental toughness. And I thought Pepsi played bloody well. But he played well against the Lions in those two matches as well, the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah, look, I mean, even like against the British and Irish Lions, when you take sort of drubbings like that, you can't really single out individual performances. But he was notable, and he is really one guy that I think, we need to keep an eye out.
Yeah. One thing that I'm looking forward to in this competition is I think it's going to bring us back to basics. I think South African rugby and the Springboks are going to benefit from this competition because it's one where the staples of rugby, the pillars of what wins matches, is held in high regard there. I think if you look at that Munster game and that Leinster game, both of those teams won by out-kicking the Sharks, out-kicking the Bulls. The Lions out-kicked Zebra and won. The Stormers out-kicked Benetton and came close. They should have won that game. I think it's going to help us come back to our roots and kind of remember how we're supposed to be playing rugby. I think this being in touch with Australian rugby specifically, and to a lesser degree New Zealand rugby, I don't think it has helped us.
I think also it's going to be a lot more of almost like a soccer-esque competition where you look at the Champions League and the Premier League, and what makes them such great competitions is that they are very, very good teams playing each other, and they are favourites. There's your top 4, your top 6, but on any given weekend a team could knock another team over, and that's the sense I get from this. Is you've got this, like you said, a 21 game competition with quality sides where when a season is that long, there's no guarantee over the whole season. So the Bulls who come out and start with a loss like that, 10 games down the line, very well could be winning, against an unexpected side. And I think it's going to make for a lot more enjoyable rugby experience sort of globally, watching these domestic sides, all of similar quality.
And the variety that there is. I mean, we get to play all these teams. And that makes for a wonderful tournament. And it's also going to make for a better South African player that comes out of that. And I think the minute these teams get 1 or 2 wins, you are going to see a very different approach. They looked a bit gun-shy. They looked a bit insecure and kind of lacking confidence. And the more they get exposed to it, they'll spend a month over there, they'll come back, they'll feel a bit more comfortable, and then they head off again in middle of next year for the away games. I was really excited about it, but I just loved the fact that there were so many games, and I thought they were good quality. And it really was a departure from the same old that we saw in Super Rugby.
That's exactly right, Mark. And how nice was it to be seeing sort of fresh rugby venues? I think that zebra game, you could see the guys sort of on the corner of the field there talking foreign, ordering cappuccinos, and at the little coffee shack in the corner. It was nice to see a different environment, a different backdrop to our rugby.
It's great. It's great to see our players in that different backdrop, and not just seeing like the blue of Loftus seats in the back.
So if we look at the teams, okay, the Bulls, I thought Auric Lowe was very good again. I'd like to see a bit more of Jacques du Plessis. I know he's been coming on at 65 minutes now. I thought Busy again showed that it's going to take him 2 or 3 games to get up to speed.
Definitely.
And in the backs, there were nice touches from Cornel Hendricks again, and Creel at fullback. I think he's really just improving all the time, and he just makes yards, and he just seems to be enjoying his rugby. So I think
he's deceptively big oak.
There were good individual points from them, but collectively, they needed to be more clinical, and there were times where I thought, okay, you take the points, kick to the corner, drive and score, and then their line out faltered and that. So I was quite encouraged by what I saw on aspects of them, but they were never going to win that game. The Lions, like you say, Jordan Hendrickson, he's someone that really is coming on. The Stormers, God, I never know what to make of them, and
I don't think they know what to make of themselves.
And then the Sharks. Any players that stood out for you guys from those 4 teams?
We spoke about Pepsi Buthelezi. I thought he was very good. I like Kieran van Vuuren. I think he's a solid player. What concerned me about the matches was, aside from the line-out, which didn't operate well in any of the teams, I think we had low 80% for all of them, was our goal kicking. So staples of South African rugby, kick it out, contest the line-out, or strike from the line-out, and then have good goal kickers. That's our tradition. Aside from Goosen, who kicked 1 of 1, we operated at 75% goal kicking efficiency this weekend. So again, the Springboks are drawing players from local teams, and some of the fundamentals are missing there. Our line-out isn't firing, and our goal kickers aren't hitting the mark. So that's something I'd like to see improve going forward.
Do you think that's a symptom of the sort of, like you said, Jake said they were a bit shocked almost in that first 20 minutes by the pace of play and the style of play, and do you think that then faltering in the set piece where you're usually strong is a symptom of that? So it's like you almost struggle to adapt in those initial 20 minutes and everything else kind of starts falling away. Whereas if you come on in the first 20 minutes, you feel you're dominant, you're actually a lot more settled in your kicking, you're more settled in your line-outs. Do you think it was just actually a bit of being shaken up a bit?
No, I think that's what we spoke about earlier. I think we're just off the pace at the moment. We've been playing each other for too long and a little bit too comfortable.
So what we're saying is there's no cause for worry at the moment.
No, there's not. And I still believe, come the playoffs, that the Bulls will be a top 4 finish. They're good enough. They're a good enough side, and they're settled enough, and they do have good squad depth. Leinster's an outstanding team, and they are the most rounded team in terms of player depth in the competition. The one thing that surprised me, and we saw it a bit in the rugby championship as well. Yes, we're big and we're physical and we're imposing, but they're big and they're physical.
Exactly.
And I found that we were beaten up physically there.
Spot on, Mark.
I feel that they keep on talking about the big South Africans, but there's big Northern Hemisphere players who are knocking us back. And I didn't feel in any of those games that we got dominance at all in the collisions. And
it doesn't help when you're big and lethargic, you need to be big and explosive.
And again, taking into account, they've come off a pre-season. They're into their new season, and we have come out of non-stop rugby. So this year was always going to be a hell of a demanding one, be it provincial, regional, international level. By next year, we'll be in a new system. We'll know this is the rugby championship that we're playing. That's our international season, and we prepare for 2023 Rugby World Cup. This year was just, everything was kind of like put into this 12 months because of what we missed. And you are playing, Jake's playing with a team that has come out of a very demanding Currie Cup system of 12 odd games and a Rainbow Cup before that, and that's also going to take its toll. You look at top 14, it's like 26 matches in a season. You just think, when's this thing ever going to get to the top 6? And a team comes through, they've just got to make that 6th place. They get into that playoff and they knock over a team, So it's playing for that playoff place and not being obsessed with, are we in the top 2? And you can get a situation where a team can probably drop 10 games 12, 11 games and actually make it through and go and win this
Yeah.
competition.
And the tables will definitely turn when they come to South Africa, because in the same way that our guys were shocked that the sort of Irish fans were sitting in their seats quite comfortably with their kids on their laps, and everyone was quiet when we were kicking a goal, it's going to be a totally different ball game when they come to Cape Town Stadium and we just go crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it will be very quiet. There'll be no one there. Hopefully, we'll have crowds back in back by January and February.
Yeah.
Looking at the games, though, guys, we're going to wrap it up. We had Ollie. You had 1 win from 4 last week. You got it right. You called the Lions. I had the Stormers to win and the Lions to win. So I got 1 out of my 2. Zals, you went
I
with
got
the Bulls.
0.
Yeah, you went with the Bulls win and a
Stormers, I think.
and a Stormers win. Yeah, you'll always go with the Stormers win because you're faithful. I mean, it's your team there. This week, are you going for 4 South African wins, 3, 2, 1, or 0?
I'm going to say 2, man. I'm going to go 2. I'm going to say the Bulls bounce back, and I'm going to back the Lions. I'm going to back the Lions against Scarlets. So 2 Friday night wins for us, and we'll mop up on Sunday. We'll have to deal with the losses.
I'm in agreement with Zals here. You got to take the Lions at face value for what they offered last week, you know, and hope that they can back it up. And the Bulls are on a side that only scores 3 points, and I think that was a bit of an anomaly, you know. So I'm expecting them to bounce back too. And if there is a team to bounce back against, it is Connacht. So
Where are you, Mark?
I'm going with the Bulls to win. Jackie. And going with the Stormers to lose. Sorry, Dobbo. I'm going with the Lions to lose. Sorry, guys. And I'm going with the Sharks to lose. I'm going 1 out of 4, but no dramas.
cool. Good luck, guys.